What up, it's Prime Pete, and I'm sure if you're watching videos like this, you're aware of the sheer amount of attention that Ubisoft are getting right now for developing their new game called XDefiant. I'm also sure that if you click this video, you're familiar with what XDefiant is. But for those of you who don't know, XDefiant is a new first-person arcade shooter that is in development by Ubisoft that claims to, and does, revive the fast-paced arcade gameplay of classic multiplayer first-person shooters. What most people that play the game are saying is that XDefiant does COD better than COD, and while I agree with them, is this game actually the COD killer like a lot of players say it is? Well, I believe this is a very interesting discussion to have among the player base that used to love COD before its downfall to corporate greed. And although Ubisoft hasn't had as much success with first-person shooters as Activision, Infinity Ward, Sledgehammer, or Treyarch have, they're doing something that has never been done in the history of gaming. They are a big-name studio creating a high-budget, high-quality game, but they're actively letting the community dictate what they want to see in it, and actively responding to all sorts of feedback and changing certain things about the game based on the general consensus on the larger issues within the game. Instead of executing their own vision as they see fit purely for profit, like the rest of the industry, they're giving the players what they want in an active effort to keep the connection to their expanding fan base. And Ubisoft isn't doing this as an experimental idea. They're doing it because right now, this is exactly what the FPS community needs. The climate of AAA shooters is absolutely in its worst state ever, due to the vast negativity surrounding the newest shooter releases like Modern Warfare 2, Battlefield 2042, and Overwatch 2, just to name a few. Ubisoft is doing what should have been done a few years ago, which is make an active effort to turn the tides and be different, and actually give their community and fan base a chance to have some input on the game. They also aren't charging money to play the game, as it is likely going to be free to play with in-game cosmetics to purchase, and in their biggest move of all, they've completely removed skill-based matchmaking from all of their casual playlists. So not only are they sacrificing the steep AAA purchase price of $70, they also dropped the opportunity to potentially rig their matchmaking to be more addictive, and sacrifice the potential success of catering to the lesser skilled casual players. The most important thing to note about XDefiant is this. This game is more than just a game. This game is a power move. This game is a statement about the current state of AAA shooters. And this game is an underhanded dig at the many shortcomings of Activision. Ubisoft said, oh, we see how Activision turned the entire community against them doing this, this, and this, so now we're going to just not do that, make a big public show about it, and then also revive the 6v6 fast-paced arcade shooter like COD used to be. Ubisoft went very much against the tide in terms of adapting to what is now the norm in their game, like a high price point, heavy SBMM or EOMM, and lack of communication with the community. They decided to make an active effort to instead not do all of these things that most popular shooters are doing, in an attempt to be defiant. To be honest with you, I'm surprised no big studios thought of this before Ubisoft did. It's not that hard to observe what makes a huge majority of the population quit playing modern AAA shooters and just say, hey, let's not do that. But that is the genius, I think, of XDefiant in the first place. Their divergence from the now industry standard of heavy SBMM, EOMM, releasing incomplete games with good graphics to mask how underdeveloped the game is, I could go on, but the divergence from all these things is what's going to make XDefiant lots of money and success in retaining players. The game is generally a quality game with lots of things that players love to see, and it's a breath of fresh air compared to modern day counterparts with no regards for players and only one desire, which is people's money. Ubisoft definitely values entertainment, and that honestly makes me very happy to see. Now, here's where I start to do my analysis. You see, although this game is objectively more true to classic and beloved COD titles than the last 4 COD games, it doesn't have the name Call of Duty on it, which might mean it goes completely unnoticed by the most softcore casuals still playing COD currently, and that is a problem for Ubisoft. Getting people to switch to a game that doesn't have as much mainstream attention as the name Call of Duty. And this could be an issue because they need to attract casuals as well as hardcore classic COD fans if they want to have the most success. And I'm sure Activision is considering this reality as well. Any casual Call of Duty player will most likely be completely unaware of the suspicions and criticism widely surrounding Activision in Modern Warfare 2. And unfortunately for those of us who woke up to Activision's blatant manipulation, the majority of players don't care enough to get involved. And they're certainly not following Modern Warfare 2 in any social media platforms or staying up to date with the development of XDefiant. If casual players were aware of the statement that XDefiant is trying to make about the state of modern gaming, and were also made aware that XDefiant is genuinely going to be much more all-around fun, fast-paced, and engaging experience than Modern Warfare 2 is, unless some players really do find such genuine fun in camping and slow-paced games, XDefiant would absolutely, without a doubt, pop off and retain more players than the past couple COD titles ever did. But how realistic is this outcome? Can we realistically expect people who are so out of touch with the reality of modern gaming, and people who play Call of Duty just because its name has so much power and such a big reputation, to actively switch over to another title just because it promises something better and more fun than modern COD? In my opinion, it definitely has a chance, but it will be difficult and it will require a thoroughly planned out and well executed marketing plan. But there's one main reason that will make getting XDefiant to surpass COD difficult. These people who don't follow the scene, which again are the majority, are likely unaware of how big a deal XDefiant's development is, if they're not already already unaware of the game's development entirely, and spreading this knowledge to them is going to be a pretty tough task, especially if these players don't pay much attention to video games on the internet, whether it's through YouTube or other websites. Call of Duty is undoubtedly a household name, and every subsequent copy of the game will probably undergo some amount of consideration if someone is looking for a new game to take up playing. XDefiant does not have this kind of reputation that COD has, being a brand new game, so it may be swept under the carpet for a lot of people, because if you don't care that much about games and just want something to play, you'll most likely default to a title that everyone knows, like COD or Fortnite. People who just want to play will not go out of their way to look for another game, especially if that game is lesser known, and on the off chance that they do, it's not like they'll spring for another 6v6 shooter when they could just easily spring for Call of Duty. However, it gives me hope, and it's important to note that Ubisoft are making this game free, and this definitely has an impact on this factor, whether they meant it or not. Someone looking for a new game to play may see a free 6v6 shooter versus a $70 6v6 shooter and decide that going free to play is definitely a smarter idea. So Ubisoft did hit this nail on the head. However, I think it would also be smart to advertise the game on television or in YouTube ads when it gets closer to release, and purposely point out the difference between this game and Call of Duty and other popular shooters in one way or another. They need reviews praising this game over COD, and they need to somehow call attention to the fact that this game has no rigged and heavy matchmaking, and they need to make sure people know they're making a statement. Ubisoft can definitely turn this game into a publicity stunt if they play their cards right, and publicity stunts get attention. There is a way to attract casual COD fans to your game, and it starts with causing a big ruckus around its difference from and superiority and entertainment value to COD. Surprisingly, one of the lead devs working on XDefiant, Mark Rubin, who's a former COD developer and actually the soldier pictured on the front of the original Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2 covers, said that he wished people would stop calling the game the COD killer, which I find interesting, especially considering that it seems like the game is doing everything in its power to do better than COD in every area. It could be because he has a sentimental connection with Call of Duty despite its current state that keeps him from wanting COD to be snuffed out by another title. While I can't necessarily blame him for this connection, as the games he is pictured on the front cover of were quality titles, current COD falls very short compared to COD back then. I personally find it hard to believe that this game wasn't intended to be a big competitor for Call of Duty because 1, this game is in high demand seeing the poor state that COD is in. 2, this game possesses the mechanics, speed, and gunplay of older classic CODs, with obvious changes to make the game feel a little more modern. 3, with a game like this being in such high demand and the gaming industry being so competitive for who gets the spotlight, it's no wonder why a game like this was being developed in the first place. And 4, Ubisoft actively and blatantly making a public show of listening to their community in contrast to the lack thereof from Activision and Call of Duty, showing the clear contrast and divergence Ubisoft is trying to have when comparing them to their #1 competitor when it comes to 6v6 arcade shooters. And these factors give me enough reason to believe that Ubisoft's course of action and development of XDefiant was nothing short of deliberate and intended to stand out against COD and make a statement about how modern AAA shooters are degrading in quality with each passing year. And this is an absolute power move, but every big change in history, big or small, starts with one group of people or even one person speaking out against a norm that is clearly wrong and unfair. And let me tell you, Ubisoft is 100% going to stick out like a sore thumb. To conclude, the best marketing plan for this game is definitely going to be calling as much attention as possible to how much XDefiant is going back to the roots of arcade shooters and not taking the path that most current AAA studios are taking. And although I'm not a marketing expert or an advertiser or a game developer, as a player, this is what I can tell you would attract me to try out a game, especially in finding Call of Duty boring and seeing through all its manipulation. I was actively seeking out alternatives to COD so I could still enjoy arcade shooters, and what I found first was a new shooter in development called XDefiant. If Ubisoft can create enough of a stir around how divergent their new title is compared to COD, we're going to have a real fight on our hands. I already have a video mentioning this, but Activision is really up against the wall with the development of Modern Warfare 3, because not only is it going to be very rushed, it's going to have to compete with XDefiant giving all of their supporters exactly what they want and actively listening to feedback. Because Activision are on a deadline, they can't afford to do that with their community, which I believe will only hurt them. This is partially why I believe Modern Warfare 3 will be more like older CODs than newer CODs, because XDefiant's initial explosion made them realize that gameplay more like their legacy titles is going to be the most profitable. I personally think that this is going to be very interesting to watch unfold, but that's all I got. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Take it easy.